So I thought I'd make a video for this because I have been told I have a 90% chance of a malignant testicular tumor. So testicle cancer is the funniest form of cancer. There's no other forms. There's no funny forms of cancer. I guess if you want to be a misogynist, you could say breast cancer is a funny form of cancer. Anything having to do with sex is very funny. But yeah, I noticed atrophy in my left testicle, which means it got smaller. It got 50% smaller. And during that period, my insomnia became basically unmanageable. I mean, over the course of a year, I went from maybe staying, it was like staying up once a month to I would stay up 2 or 3 times a week. That's kind of where I'm at now, for 40 hours at a time. Stay up 40 hours, go to sleep 12 hours. And so I was like, there's something wrong here. I noticed emotionally in my relationships, I was a lot more worried, anxious, neurotic, paranoid, upset. And I felt bad, I felt bad that all the people that I talked to, strangers, closer relationships, I felt like, man, I'm just complaining all the time and I'm really anxious and nervous and worried. And it didn't used to be this way. I don't remember it being this way. Like, I remember being able to handle things, being able to put things together, being confident, and I just felt like a total loss of confidence and a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety and a lot of intensity. And I'm not happy with that behavior. So I was like, well, my balls have shrunk, so I better go see the doctor. And he looked at it and we did a CAT scan, we did an ultrasound, and he said, if this was benign, you wouldn't see blood flow going through this. He showed me what looks like a tumor. He's like, yeah, there's blood flow, and so 90% chance this is a malignant tumor. And the only thing we can do is to remove the testicle. So, this thing has been around for however long. And so what will happen is when he removes the testicle, he's going to find out if the cancer has spread to other parts, right? Has it spread through all the different whatever? I'm not going to give you all the terminology because I don't know it myself, but he's going to see. And if there's no evidence of cancer having spread, they just monitor it, and you just wait till one day you have symptoms of cancer somewhere else in your body. But so I don't know what the chances are. I would say right now it's a 50-50. I think it's a 50% shot that he removes my testicle and I don't have cancer anywhere else and I don't have to do chemotherapy. I think. I don't know what the actual chances are. I'm just throwing stuff out there. But that would be the best case scenario, right? Is it's completely localized. And then, if it's spread, I have to do chemotherapy. And the success rate with chemotherapy is like 95%, right? So the chances of me dying from testicular cancer in the next 5 years, or any cancer really, are like extremely low. And I have health insurance, and, I'm poor enough that I can hop on Medicaid if it comes to that. So in terms of the cost, in terms of the mortality rate, that it's not, I'm not going to die. But in terms of the symptoms of, or I should say the side effects, the permanent damage caused by chemotherapy, there's a laundry list of things where it's like 30% chance you'll have ringing in your ears the rest of your life, 30% chance you lose your hearing, 30% chance you have Raynaud syndrome, which is where your circulatory system doesn't work and your fingers get cold, 30% chance of nerve damage, 30%, and it just kind of goes on and on with all these things that happen to people who do chemotherapies. You have some problems as a result of that. So I'm going to have some problems most likely if I do chemotherapy. And I'm going to be infertile most likely. I mean, that's kind of what we're looking at. So, I've looked up, it's about $2,000 for me to freeze my sperm. So I'll look into that. I think the biggest thing to me always is the psychological and the moral, and it always frames things. I've always been somebody who's thinks way more about death than 99% of people, right? I'm not an easygoing guy, so, and it's not even just about being a serious or comedic person. There are some people who are existentialists, and they're really concerned with what does it mean to be a human? What does it mean to be alive? What does it mean to be dead? Other people just kind of live their lives. I've always wanted to figure that out. And I thought, well, I'm really smart, and if I can just use my intelligence to figure out these questions, then I'll obtain some peace, or that will give me catharsis that will take me to the next level. I'll figure out my problems. I'll be able to stand above them. Obviously, this puts natalism in a different light. It was this past month, actually, just a couple of weeks ago, I wrote a couple articles saying I'm a natalist now. I would have described myself as a right-wing guy from I don't know if you consider right-wing libertarianism from 2000. I think going back to 2008, I was, well, even before that, it was I was we should support President, but I had the Britney Spears opinion. I was we should support President Bush, because even though I don't like Christians and Southerners or whatever, this is a democracy and those are the rules, and therefore we're going to have a Christian president because that's what the majority of people are. And we have to support President Bush. So I kind of had that kind of Britney Spears take on politics. And then from there, I got into the Young Turks, I got into Amazing Atheist. And then it was certainly by 2009, 2010, I was a right-wing libertarian. And I remained right-wing through 2017. And then, I started to do the whole deep left, whatever you want to call it. You can call it a prank. You can call it an ideology. You can call it a method. You could call it, maybe there's another mysterious term for it. But it was an intentional project on my part of I'm really frustrated with my personal life. I'm really frustrated with my politics. And so I want to change that. I want to figure out how to change that. And I just believed, my belief was that I'm so intelligent and I'm very arrogant, but I'm I can figure this out, right? I can figure out politics. I can figure out life, and I'm going to come up with a solution, because I was just the right wing is not working. We need to do something different. And so I just kept trying and trying and trying different things, and always trying to be truthful, trying to be authentic, not just lying, but trying to be creative. Is there a different perspective? Is there a different frame? Is there a different way we can look at this to see things in another light, so that we don't have to be trapped in a failed ideology for resentful losers. And so I was desperate to achieve that while remaining like true to my principles of what do I love? What are the virtues and the aesthetics and the beauty that I love? So a lot of people take me as a comedian, and I always try to make things entertaining. I don't want to be boring. I've always enjoyed comedy. I've always hated horror comedy. I've always hated Rick and Morty, but I've always, I always liked watching stand-up comedy, and I've always respected that as an art, the art making people laugh, and I never viewed that as mutually exclusive. Being a little bit of a troll, being a little bit self-deprecating or ridiculous, but I never viewed it as a fundamental contradiction. I viewed it as part of the emotional program of getting people to see things. Humor allows people, it opens people up to new perspectives. So it's like sometimes the joke is the most truthful thing in its ability to change people's minds, which is what I was trying to do. I was trying to change my own mind and make myself publicly accountable and bring people along with me and have people challenge me and fight with me, and we're going to jostle, we're going to figure it out together. So, during that process from 2018 onward, I personally really struggled with relationships, and I always kind of attribute that to not having a community, not having a religion, not having a church, not having a social structure. I mean, I never had, with my girlfriends, I was never able to introduce them to my friends and, have some, or vice versa, right? We were just two atomized individuals, and that made things, I think, a lot more difficult. And so I started to become very cynical about the prospects of me ever having a successful relationship and ever having kids. And obviously that caused me anxiety because I've always wanted to have kids since I was like 12 years old or whatever. I was thinking about, okay, someday I'm going to get married and I'm going to do things differently. I'm not going to get divorced. I'm going to have a good marriage, and I'm going to raise my kids in this way, and I'm going to fix everything. I'm going to, the ways in which my parents messed up, I'm going to fix it. We're going to do it right this time, and we're going to redeem the lineage. And so I had been fixated on that for a while, and that was part of the reason why I went to church. I started going, I think I first went to church in 2013. I mean, I went to synagogue in 2012, and then I went to church. I went to a Catholic church, and I went to an Orthodox church. And I went to even a Protestant church, not of my own will, but I was sort of dragged along to these Pentecostal churches and whatnot. And each of those experiences, I got more and more cynical about that. But the motivating reason behind going to the church was like, I need stability, I need identity, I need community, I need sociality, and all of that was for the wife and kids. All of that was to say, I need to find a woman who we have this third judge that we can appeal to of like, this is normal, this is right and wrong, this is how relationships work, this is who we go to, this is who we talk to, this is our support system. Because without that, I felt like I've watched atheists get married and it doesn't seem to work out. Now, I think I have a little bit of a different perspective now. I think if you're a very left-wing liberal person, if you got a PhD and you're a Democrat and you're a normal Democrat, not like me, not like a weirdo, but if you're like a normal Democrat, then you're very well educated, then I think those people can keep the marriage together because they can appeal to liberal norms. And I think liberal norms are robust enough at this point that people can have successful relationships. They're not going to have a ton of kids because they're liberals. But I think you can have a successful lifelong partnership with somebody within the context of high levels of education and liberalism, which is another thing I didn't do. I didn't get the PhD, right? So, and I have all these, weird idiosyncratic, whatever you want to call it, just you look at the intellectual journey I've been on, and it's very high in openness, and that's kind of a problem. I'm too exploratory, I'm too far out there, I don't color in the lines, and so that's scary to people, and it gives people the ick, and it upsets people. Like, it's a spectrum, obviously, but I remember one of the first interviews I tried to do for Substack, I was talking to this guy. I said, hey, do you want to do a podcast? And I met him in real life at a party, and he said he was like a philosopher. I was trying to talk to liberals. I mean, this is my purpose. And he looked at my Substack, and there was one of the titles had the word eugenics in it, and I wasn't being hysterical about it. I was just describing the way in which, okay, there are heritable characteristics and people are selective, right? So it's like if you have a population and they worship certain beauty standards, then okay. And if rich people have more kids and rich people have more latitude in their ability to select their partner, then you're going to get those beauty standards will proliferate among the upper class. And because they have more kids, they will increase in their share in the population. And that's a form of artificial selection, right? That's not natural Darwinian selection, survival of the fittest. That's what that is eugenics, right? So that was what I was saying. And I made that argument a ton of times. And neutrally, right? I wasn't saying eugenics is a good thing. I was saying this is something that is happening in our population right now. You could say that because conservatives have more kids. That we're selecting for conservative personality traits over time, right? So, anyways, and I wasn't saying, oh, I love this is awesome. No, I wasn't. That wasn't the point at all. I was just saying, like, whether you like it or not, we are selecting at all times, and we should be conscious of that, and we should ask ourselves, like, is this the kind of selection we want to do, or let's have a conversation about it. Like, and you can have a moral prejudice against selection. You can say everyone should have kids or no one should have kids. That's a position. Let's talk about it. I think we're going to have some kind of selection. What kind should we have? Let's talk about it. Should we have a diversity of selection? Should we have a monolithic? And I've always been, and that's why, I've written articles against eugenics, of this idea that there should only be one type of person. And no, I don't believe in that. But anyway, he saw this word and he sent me a text message that was like, I will never talk to a eugenicist. Do not contact me ever again. He said, like, I am afraid of you. You scare me. And I was like, oh my God. So that's what happens when I talk to liberals, right? And now that was a few years ago, so maybe things are a little bit different now to some extent. I mean, incrementally, not totally, but yeah, I mean, I've been trying to ride that line ever since. I've been trying to be like, I want to be truthful. I want to be authentic. I want to talk about the world the way I see it, but I also want to be able to do that in a way that's a little bit funny, that's respectful, that's controversial, that's provocative, that gets attention, that, so I have all of these like emotional goals, but I'm trying to like wrap the cookie around the pill and get people the truth. But all of that is to say, the idea of like getting a PhD and getting a wife, or joining a church and getting a wife, it was all, the goal there was, I wanted to have a family, I wanted to have kids, and I had a lot of chances to do that, and I failed pretty spectacularly. And if I were to attribute that, what is it? What I wasn't committed enough to these women. I didn't believe in myself. I didn't have the confidence. I thought we'd come to a point in the relationship where I yeah, had a catastrophic loss of confidence and felt like it's not going to work out and there's nothing I can do. And so I just sort of withdrew, and or I just became really negative and just complained about everything. And then, if you're a woman and the guy you're dating turns into a pathetic, pitiful, sad sack, then you're going to break up with him. You're going to find somebody else. That's kind of how human beings operate when one person makes themselves unattractive in that way, because that's what attracts women, is confidence. So I just melted into a pile of goop, and they waded through the goop for a while. They tried to stay with me as long as they could, and that's kind of the pattern of relationships that I've had. More recently, I blew up a relationship because I anticipated that happening. I anticipated, the loss of confidence and the loss of the relationship, and it's just too painful. I couldn't go forward with that, and that's really it's really been upsetting me. But I thought during a lot of this recently, I thought, well, there's got to be a way to change the psychology. Like I'm too neurotic, I'm too feminine, I'm too whatever word you want to use. I'm sure there's a lot of words you could use. You could slap labels on me, you could diagnose me, and call me autistic, call me schizophrenic, call me depressed, which I think it's so ridiculous to me that those are the three categories that all men have to go into. It's like beta, alpha, schizo, sigma male, autistic, schizophrenic. It's like, yeah, those words actually describe like literally 1% of the population. The actual number of alpha males, and I've met alpha males, right? An alpha male is somebody who walks in the room, takes control, takes command. That's like 1% of the population. Seriously. And if you have a room of multiple alpha males, one of them will establish himself as the dominant alpha and the rest of them will become beta males. And being a beta male doesn't mean you're a cuck. It means that you recognize, oh, I'm not the leader in this situation. Because there can only be one leader in a small group, right? In an organic Dunbar's number hierarchy, can only be one leader. So it's like, all right, this guy's the leader. So now I am the beta male. Beta male doesn't mean he's, taking my wife from me and he's monopolizing all the sexual resources. No, being a beta male means he's the leader, and my opinion or my power in the social hierarchy is I get to advise him. Maybe I even debate. Maybe I offer input. And the things I have to say as a beta male are respected and taken into account. It's like the relationship between Aragorn and Boromir. Aragorn's clearly the alpha male. Boromir is the beta male, right? But Boromir is still a prince. He's not a weakling or something. There's nothing wrong with it, Boromir. But like most most men are not even beta males, right? Because a beta male is somebody, it literally means second in command. It means right-hand man. When Christ says he's at the right hand of the Father, he's calling himself a beta male. He's saying God the Father is the alpha, I'm the beta. Okay, maybe Christians don't want me to say it like that, but that's how I'm representing it. Odin is the alpha male, Thor is the beta male. And there's only so many people who actually get to be the second in command. Sometimes in a room, you'll have one alpha and you'll have one beta. And that's it. And who's everybody else? Well, they're below beta, right? They're in some other category. They're in the omega category or the sigma category. Their opinions don't matter. And I guess the definition of a sigma male is someone who's just completely outside of a social hierarchy. And these are like schizophrenic and autistic people, right? These are like, I'm trying to think of a true sigma male would be not Terry Pratchett. You guys know the guy who made Temple OS, right? So it's like somebody who has zero friends and they're totally on their own and they're totally bizarre and they're totally weird. That's a Sigma male. And most men are not true Sigma males. Most men have a concept of friendship or community or belonging or identity of like, oh, I'm part of the dissident right, or I'm, I go to college or whatever. They have some, most people are not true Sigmas, just like most people are not true alphas or true betas. And most people are not autistic. Okay. And most people, because autistic people are nonverbal. Like this concept of high functioning autism, I think it's just a spectrum of personality traits. And most people are not schizophrenic. Like 1% of people are actually have hallucinations. Everything else, we're on a spectrum. So I don't find these labels to be helpful. So that's, why was I not able to make relationships work? You can put a label on it. But the result is that I don't have kids. And there's a chance that I am already infertile because of this cancer. There's an inchworm climbing up a paper towel right now. Yeah. Anyway, sorry to be distracted, but I have I'm probably already infertile. I mean, who knows? Who knows, right? Does that mean I'll never have kids? Well, there are ways that you can IVF and stuff. There are ways to try to get around that. So I don't know. It's possible that I could have kids. But it is existentially, because I think back on my life and people say, oh, you're so young. And it's like, I don't know. I've had a lot of chances to make it work, right? I've had a lot of chances to be putting myself out there and meeting people and forming relationships and then making those relationships work. And the saddest thing is I dated a lot of college girls. And I'm sad about that because they were all, liberal feminist women, even the right-wing ones, even the Nazi. They all said, I want to wait 8 years to have kids. Even the ones who are, and I can't even repeat on YouTube how radical their right-wing beliefs were, right? But they'd be like, yeah, I want to wait 8 years. And I'd be like, 8 years? I'm going to be like dead in 8 years, That's an incredibly long period of time. I'm going to be old. My sperm quality is going to be bad. I'm going to be 8 years is, I just couldn't, I could never do that. And they all, this is what I was being told is we're going to wait till I'm 30. And so if I had made any of those relationships work, I would be with a girl right now and I'd be telling her, oh, I have cancer and I'm probably infertile. Whoops, too late, That's why I guess the original strategy, which was to go to church and find a nice Christian girl, obviously that works, right? Obviously I would have had kids by now. And if I had 2 kids right now and they told me you have testicular cancer and you're going to be infertile or you're already infertile, I would be like, okay, I'm not going to have 8 kids, but I've had 2 kids and I'm really happy. And I'm, I would be in a totally different state of mind about it. The idea of having a lifelong chronic disease as a result of chemotherapy is very troubling. The idea of never having kids. And again, it's funny because, like I said, for about 8 years from 2018 to 2026, or say 7 years or something, I definitely up till like 2023, 2024, I had become more and more of an antinatalist. I was like, we need less people. I don't want to have kids. I want to change the world through communication, ideology. That's how I think we change the world, not by just pumping out more babies. We need to change minds. It's a mimetic war. It's not a biological war. And I had steered more and more in that direction over time. And I think even when I was more right wing, I think I had those feelings that it would be better to be like a Christ-like figure where you don't have kids, but you change the world. That's the ideal, actually, is to be a celibate man who changes the world. Not to just be a proletariat and pump out kids. So I had gone more and more in that direction, and I called myself an antinatalist in 2024. And over the last couple of years, I've argued with natalists and people like Lyman Stone and Peter Forshaw Brooks. And in the past month, I was like, yeah, I changed my mind. Like, I am a natalist. I do think we should have kids. Not everybody, but I'm saying, like, if you, as a moral question, if you have an IQ of 110 or something, if you're able to read a book, because most people are not functionally literate. Most people are not capable of actually reading a book. But if you can read a book, you probably would be good for you to have kids on a moral level of we should affirm life. That, if you're a Gnostic or a Buddhist or something and you think that the cycle of life is bad, reincarnation is bad, I think you still have an obligation to have kids in most cases, because these souls are going to incarnate in one way or another. And if you don't incarnate them as humans, they're going to incarnate as animals. So it's not like because those souls have karma, right? So they're going to incarnate one way or another. You not having kids is not going to stop them from incarnating. You are not like, it's not like there's souls who are pouring into reality and you're like, well, I'm not having kids, so I'm actually saving these souls from being incarnated. And that's not true. The truth is that they're coming into the world one way or another. And so they can either come through you or they can come through someone else. And if they come through you, well, again, if you can read a book, that's probably better than the alternative, which is they're going to come through somebody who can't read a book. And maybe that's like an overly, IQ maxing way to say it. But I think there's like a bare minimum in terms of people who can achieve consciousness, people who can be thoughtful, people who can be sensitive. I think there is kind of there's something important about that. It's not everything. And I do think there's a good counter argument. I do think that there are a lot of intelligent people who are malicious. There are a lot of intelligent people who are messed up in all kinds of ways, and maybe they shouldn't have kids. But I'm also optimistic and I'm also hopeful. And I also believe that a lot of this maliciousness that we see in the world, and even within myself, like I look at destructive tendencies and I say, is this a genetic thing? Or is this because of a system of beliefs that I have? And I think a lot of times, like, I think back to Christianity and I think back to the idea of hope and faith. And I think, like, I think that I'm oftentimes embarrassed to embrace those ideas because they seem dumb or they seem scary. Because if I have hope, if I have faith, what if I lose again? What if, I go to the Catholic Church and the girl who drives me there ends up becoming a lesbian, shaving her head, getting a nose piercing, and letting her armpit hair grow out? What if that happens? What if I'm going to the Orthodox Church and then my friend who takes me there graduates and I don't have any more friends and I feel abandoned? Or what if I'm in a relationship and then we break up and I feel devastated? Or what if, anything you do in life, anytime you get attachment, there's a chance of loss. And it often feels that way with hope and faith, that there's the fear of being a sucker. There's a fear of falling into something that isn't going to last, and you're just going to get hurt. And so it's safer to be cynical. It's safer to be realistic. It's safer to be pessimistic. Why bother hoping? Why bother? And those thoughts are egoic. They're protecting the self. And I struggle with that as much as anybody else, if not more. But I also believe I have a moral duty to struggle against that tendency because it comes from a place of fear. And I don't think a fearful life is worth living. And I think the best life is the life that is not afraid of death. I think that is when life achieves its apotheosis, its highest zenith, is when the living being is freed from the fear of death. Then it attains courage and bravery and hope, faith, confidence, and optimism. I mean, you can call women shallow and superficial when they love swagger. They love a guy who's confident, and you can say, "Oh, that's so superficial." But there's something there. There's like a spark of the divine in a man who has confidence, even if he's faking it, right? What is he faking? What is the simulacra referring to? What is the good that it's pointing to? And it is a fearless life. That's what women love most of all. And I gotta say, that's beautiful. You know, even if it's perverted, right? Even if in reality, the confidence that women are looking for is like really dumb. It's like, you know, it's like rap music, right? It's like, it's just very silly. You know, it's not this existential confidence that I'm talking about. Whoa, I just realized my hand is doing weird things in the camera. Anyways. But even if it's silly, even if it's a parody, even if it's satirical, I think it does refer to a deeper truth. So I do think we have a moral obligation to seek that optimism, faith, and hope in all circumstances. And I've always been a pessimist. I've always been a catastrophizer. I always think of the worst case scenario. I've thought about having cancer before, of course. Of course. I mean, if you have my psychology, and I'm the guy who, I'm always looking for the flaw. I'm extremely judgmental. So it's like, what's the worst thing that could happen? So every time I hear about somebody having cancer, automatic thought is, what if I had cancer? And then I like go through a life story in my head of, well, I would do this, 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 and this. And that's going on all the time. I have my internal monologue constantly generating these worst case scenarios. And it's a very high cortisol way to live. I don't recommend it, but it's just kind of how I'm built. It's a defense mechanism. Delusions of grandeur, fantasies, being the martyr. I have that fantasy a lot of times, you know, being in a war, dying in a war. And I'm not unique in this respect. There's a lot of men who have these compulsive, intrusive thoughts. And I get some kind of enjoyment out of it in the same way that I enjoy watching the opera. You know, I like drama. I'm a melodramatic person. I've always been a Wagnerian. You know, I've always been religious in that way. Not spiritual, not with the crystals, but I've always been highly neurotic and intense to a degree that is painful and destructive. But that's who I am. And so in a way, I've been here before. I've been here 1,000 times because I've imagined what it would be like to have a disease. I've imagined worse things, to be honest, than having testicular cancer, because it has like a 95% survival rating. Like, I'm not going to die And people, I think people hear the word cancer and they think you're going to die. And it's like, probably not. I'm probably not going to die. In fact, I might go out walking on the street and get hit by a car. I mean, that happens all the time. But was it 20,000 people a year get killed by cars? So a lot of people get killed by cars. I mean, obviously that could happen to anyone, right? We don't live in a world where you get like a guaranteed lifespan or something. Nobody lives forever. What's this? I have a meeting in an hour I've got to attend. That's what that's telling me. So I'm going to go to that meeting. So I got to wrap this up because I'd like to prepare for that meeting. One take. We always do it in one take. Man. But I've really, yeah, I guess what I'll say is this. I don't think I'm going to die, but I do think I'm going to be permanently disabled. A little bit, I don't think I will ever have I think my testosterone levels, I'm going to have hypogonadalism, whatever. I'm going to have low T, and I'm probably going to have to get on TRT, which is, if my fertility is not already destroyed, that's definitely going to destroy my fertility. I mean, these problems, I've always had this like kind of survivalist Robinson Crusoe fantasy of like, you put me on a desert island and I could just survive. It's like, I'm not going to survive. I'm going to be dependent on the medical system. I'm going to have to go in and get a testosterone boost, and I'm never going to be quite normal or natural or the same as I was before. Or I can just accept being low T, and I'm going to have low energy. I'm going to be more depressed. I'm going to be more neurotic. I'm going to be more emotionally unstable. And all of it's going to impact my writing. I've always wanted to be the best writer, the best that I can be. I just want to try my best. And it's like, everything I've written, it's behind me now. And I look ahead to the future and I think, man, I guess it's all downhill from here, right? I guess I'm going to technically be alive, but there's ringing in my ears and I can't sleep and my fingers are cold and I just feel bad all the time and I feel like a loser because my testosterone level is dropped. And all of these things are weighing me down. And I see how that reflects my writing because I've tracked my writing every day for 2.5 years, every single day. And then I journal. And then I compare my rating of the day. Did I have a 10 out of 10 day? Did I have a 1 out of 10 day? And I look at my writing and it's like 1 to 1. If I feel good, I write good. If I feel bad, I don't write anything at all. And so it's basically and obviously there are people who go through chemotherapy or something and they're like, they do fairly well and they go on and they have a career, an intellectual career. So, but it just sucks. It just sucks that I'm getting old. I mean, it's like an accelerated aging program, right? I go through chemo and it just ages you, right? It just increases your likelihood of disease. It wears you down. It makes you tired. And so I'm going to experience that. I'm going to go through that. Now, none of this is 100%. There's like a good 5% chance I don't even have cancer. But this is what the doctors told me, right? When a doctor tells you, we're going to remove your testicle, that's the most serious thing anyone's ever told me, medically speaking. So that's what they're telling me I have to do. And my life's never going to be the same. My writing's never going to be the same. That's all I care about is the writing. I'm sorry that I didn't write more. I'm sorry that I didn't start earlier. I'm sorry that I procrastinated, that I waited and I put it off. And now I've got like 30 days left and I'm already diminished. That's the problem. I'm already diminished. I mean, everyone knows how like it's just a joke, right? I mean, they say Hitler had one shrunken ball. I don't know if that's true, but that's what they claim, is he had this gene that caused one of his testicles to shrink or to never develop. And so he was running on low T his whole life, which I guess is encouraging to guys with low T, because it's like, well, you can still take over the world, right? For 12 years or something like that. However you want to phrase that, for good or for evil. You can say, well, you could become the Reichschancellor. I guess you don't need high T for that, but I guess that's a positive. We'll say, well, look at all the guys who've had low T. Look at what they achieved. For good or for evil, they did something. So maybe it's not a death sentence. Maybe I'm not going to be impotent. But I definitely am going to have problems having kids in the future. I mean, this is definitely, this is definitely an obstacle. This is definitely a challenge. And I am upset that I didn't settle down with a girl and have kids. I am upset about that because I was with a lot of great women. I think, the serious relationships that I had, the breakups, because obviously if you just hook up with somebody and then you ghost one another, I mean, who cares? I might have fun. Like, a lot of those women are good women, but all the girls I seriously dated, I'd say the vast majority of them, where we actually had a breakup, where we actually we have to go separate ways, this isn't working out. I think the vast majority of them were like really good partners and will make really good wives and really good mothers. And nobody's perfect, but I think they all like met the standard. I think they were all like really above average. I think they were all like top tier women in terms of beauty and personality. And I would have been lucky to stay with any of them, but I wasn't able to do that. Or I thought I wasn't able to do that or something. Like it didn't work out, and I blame myself for that. And it seems like any relationship I have, I just get to these points in life where I just get panicked, or I get overwhelmed, or self-hating, or I don't know what the phraseology would be. I get afraid, and then I withdraw. And yeah, I've already said that now, but I'm just really sad because now it's like I'm never going to be high T again. What you see right now, this is me unshaven with a bad camera quality. This is the peak you will ever see me. After this, I'm going to be weaker. I'm going to be slower. I'm going to be less confident. I'm going to be more nervous. I'm going to be sickly. I'm going to be diseased. And what kind of woman's going to want to be with me then? So if I thought dating was hard before, wow. What's dating going to be like post chemo dating? And I'm going to be like, my hair's going to be growing back, and I'm going to be like, all right, it's time for me to get back on Tinder. And I'm going to put up a picture of myself, and I'm going to look like, I'm going to look like a prisoner of war. I'm going to look like I've been in a prisoner of war camp on hunger strike. I'm going to look skinny fat. More than I do now. I mean, if you already think I look skinny fat, I'm going to look more skinny fat. And it's just not good, right? It's the opposite of looks maxing. It's the opposite. Clavicular is looks maxing. I'm looks minning. I'm really going to be looks minning. And that is extremely distressing to think about. The fact that I'm never going to, like, I peaked. I hit the wall. I'm never going to be attractive to women again. And I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life. I mean, that's a realistic outcome. That's a realistic outcome. Or I could be less judgmental, lower my standards, and date a woman who also has gone through chemotherapy, right? I could be a looks match. I could find the right girl for me. There's always, everyone's got the right girl out there for them. Yeah, how many guys who go through chemotherapy go on to have successful marriages and kids? I don't know, man. So that's what I'm not worried about dying. I think it would be immoral. And I'm not, well, I should rephrase this. Death certainly, it's hard for me to explain this to people. When the fear of death enters my mind, I think to myself, this is normal, this is natural, this is part of life, and this is something that I need to be confrontational. If the doctor told me, oh, cancer's all throughout your body, chemo's not going to work, you got 2 months, I'd be like, we're going to do it. We're going to do these 2 months, But when he says, yeah, 95% chance you'll live, you just do chemo. And then you look up what that looks like, and you're like, oh, I'm going to be crippled. I'm never going to be athletic again. I'm never going to be attractive. And maybe that's all very narcissistic and superficial to say, but it's like, I know I already have problems. I'm already, basically, I have a bad personality. Okay, as far as I'm not like the most loyal person or committed person or stable person. I'm a judgmental person. I have all these personality flaws that are very difficult to change. And maybe I am a little bit of a narcissist. And maybe that makes it difficult or impossible for me to be in a relationship already. But it's like having those problems and then adding on top of that the destruction of my body or the crippling of my body. And you put all of that together and it's like, I'm going to be a judgmental, narcissistic, non-committal, unstable person. And then you add on top of that, and now I'm ugly and weak. And if you think I'm ugly and weak already, just imagine, you can always get worse, right? And so I'm like, damn, that's not good. And it feels worse than death, because death is inevitable. So it's not, I shouldn't say that I'm not worried about death. That's maybe makes me sound too brave. But I should say that, like, I fundamentally see death as an opportunity. A confrontation with death is an opportunity to live a more fulfilling life because you take each moment more seriously. So in some ways, I'm like attracted to the concept. Like, I like it. Like, it's invigorating. Like, you're in battle and you're like, this is the moment. This is where heroism is born. Heroism is not born in chemotherapy. Now, there are counterart. You can say, no, it's a challenge, and then you come out of it, and then you survive it, and then you become a better person, and damn, it's a very optimistic narrative. I'm just already so self-critical before the chemo. I just can't imagine how yeah. Testicular cancer, and I'm going to find a wife and have kids. Chances are looking pretty low of that right now. So it just, it gives me a lot of regret. It gives me a lot of regret for the decisions that I've made in the past. I totally had wonderful opportunities to make it work. And I didn't make it. We're not all going to make it. Some of us don't make it. Some of us fail. And I did fail. And I did make mistakes. And that's what I'm upset about of the past. This could have been avoided. I could have said, well, I have testicular cancer, but at least I got my family, I got my wife, I got my kids. But if it's just not going to happen, if I'm going to have to accept that, right? If that's where we come to with it, I'm going to have to accept it. I guess this is like a therapy session between me and the internet, and me saying, like, should that occur, should it just come to pass that, yeah, I'm going to be in that state, I do have to make the best of it. And it's like, I don't know what I'm going to be able to do. I don't know if I'm going to go from, I used to write, 100,000 words a month. I would write on average 3,000 words a day every single day. 7 days a week. That's the average, right? Some days I'd write 14,000 words in a single day. But that was my productivity. And maybe, am I going to be able to squeeze out 10,000 words? I don't know. And is any of it going to be very high quality? I don't know. Am I ever going to... when I think about what is love, like we had that movie Obsession, and I was really freaked out by it. Because there's a scene where she says, she's just crying, and she says, I know that you don't love me as much as I love you. And that is the scene that strikes me. It's not the violence, it's not the jump scares. Like, that scene really hits the core of my being, because there's this insecurity there that I feel of, like, will any woman ever love me? Has any woman ever loved me? I don't know. Because, like, isn't love supposed to be forever? So, like, we have these conceptions of love and attachment and these contradictory definitions of what love is. Is love in a moment? Is it a sacrifice? Is it eternal? Is it about commitment? Is it a promise? Is it a relationship? What is this thing that we all want so desperately? And I certainly want it. Is it a narcissistic thing to want love? Is it natural? Is love only found in marriage, or is it found in family, or is it only found in friendship? Is true love between men in friendship? Is that the purest form of love? So it's like all these different concepts of love, and the desire, and the things that we call something love, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's just attachment. And that was one of the problems in the film, is like, does she actually love this person, or she's just attached to them, and vice versa? Does he actually love her? It's such a disturbing film, because it's taking things that I felt inside myself, and it's displaying them openly and showing how horrifying it is, and how gut-wrenching it is, and how destructive it is. And I'm really, it was extremely upsetting to me, and I didn't sleep for 40 hours after watching that film. I was just so disturbed by it. So that's kind of where I sit right now, is it's like, you think that there's someone right out there for you, and then you're hit with chemotherapy, and you're in a diminished state, and you're like, well, I guess the girl that maybe I could have had, she's already gone. She's in my past, and I regret, and I think back to those girls, and they're all in great relationships, They're all doing really good, and they've got kids, and they're really happy. And I look back on them, and I think, could have been with me. And going forward, feels like there's no chance. But that's how I feel. I'm just being honest about that. That's how I feel, but in terms of the reality of the situation and the necessity of going forward, of what needs to happen. I talked about faith, I talked about optimism, I talked about hope, and I believe that I don't know, I have this purpose that I don't fulfill as well as I should, and it's an ideal, and I have to keep fighting for that no matter what. So that's where I guess I should end, because I do have to get going soon, but I don't want to give you a trite truism. I don't want to say something you've heard a million times before, because I think like that level of sentimentality, and I engage, I do that. I get weepy, I cry. I mean, the funny thing is I was like crying over this girl for like 2 months, like almost every other day. And I was reading the Bhagavad Gita. I was crying reading the Bhagavad Gita. And then it's like, I live a mediocre life. It's like, what does all this crying do? Like you can be so sad, you can cry over, oh, God and love, but what does it do? Like, what matters is action. I don't want to just sit around crying over anything. But I mean, I would like to take action. I would like to do something. And in order for me to do that, I have to have some level of hope and optimism, purpose and faith and stoicism and discipline, which I've always struggled with. I've never had those things to the extent that I've wanted to have them, because I know that's how things get done. And especially since my most recent breakup, I have been operating in a diminished state, and I've been very unhappy. Porn scrolling, doom scrolling, whatever, and I don't believe in addictions outside of drugs. I don't think addictions are real. I think I'm a deeply unhappy person, and I don't want to participate in reality, and so I go into an alternate reality. That's all it is. I don't think, it's because when I was a kid, I would read books. I would stay up all night and read books. And that was my thing. If you asked anyone, they'd be like, yeah, he's up till 5 a.m. As a 12-year-old boy, he's up till 5 a.m. reading Harry Potter. Would you say I have a Harry Potter addiction, a book addiction? No. I just didn't want, I was not happy with the reality around me. I wanted to be in a different reality. And I've always felt that way. I've always been an idealist. I've always wanted more. I've never fit in the world or been comfortable. And I've always wanted more. I've always been desperate. I've always been obsessive. And so that expresses itself sometimes in politics. It expresses it sometimes philosophically. It expresses itself pornographically. It expresses itself in mundane and mediocre ways. And sometimes it expresses itself poetically and energetically and powerfully. And I don't think it's always a bad thing to say, like, I'm not happy with the world and I want something more. But certainly for the past couple months, I look at what I've done and I'm not happy. I look at where I've lived. I've been living in really shitty apartments and I'm not happy. And I look at how I spend my day. And I'm grok generating MILFs. That's the truth. That's the truth of what I've been doing. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Not going to lie to you, because I got cancer. So it's like, what the hell's the point of lying to you guys? And I'm sorry that I've been doing that. I'm sorry that I have been wasting my time staying up all night and not doing what I should be doing, is writing the 3,000 words a day. I've been distracted because I wouldn't say I'm depressed, because I don't believe I'm in a low energy state, but I've been distressed. I've been high cortisol. I've been stressed. I've been anxious. I've been self-hating. I've been all those things. So nothing has been getting done. And I fear that as I get sicker and sicker with chemotherapy, and it's going to take away a year of my life, and, I'll try to produce stuff while I'm, my hair's falling out and I'm bedridden. I'm going to try to do things, but I know it's going to be diminished. It's funny, I was going through that breakup and I thought, man, this is like the worst thing that could ever happen to me. I lost the perfect girl, and this is always going to happen, because no matter who I'm with, I'll always come to this point of insecurity and fearfulness. Oh, what if she leaves me at some point in the future? What if she finds out I'm not really as confident as I present myself to be? And then it's devastating. And I was thinking about that, and then it's like, well, what if you had cancer? And I'm like, oh, that does put things in perspective, right? You realize that the things I worry about don't matter. What matters is pursuing my purpose. And again, I don't want to say everyone has a purpose, because some people have Down syndrome. Some people are, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that, but whatever, it's true. Like, some people are cashiers, some people are truck drivers, and those people are being replaced by technology. And it is, it's frightening to think about. It's horrifying to think about, but people are being replaced by machines, and people are being biologically replaced as well. So there's a lot of replacement going on, and it's frightening. But I do think that if you can read a book, you probably have a purpose. Again, I don't want to keep repeating myself here, but I think that the assumption that you have a purpose, or you could have a purpose if you tried, I mean, that is hope, that is faith, that is optimism. And so I continue to have that. And I really hope that what this does is, it's going to suck, and it's going to hurt, and it's going to feel miserable, and I'm going to cry. But I think it has the potential. I think, there are a percentage of people who go through something like chemotherapy and they come out of it. There's a percentage of people who come out of it and they survive it, and I don't know that they go on to do great things, to be honest. I think it might be over in terms of that. I don't know. I don't know of any great people who've survived cancer, like people who had cancer. Obviously, there are people who do great things and then they have cancer, but I'm saying, like, as an event, I don't know that I'm ever going to do great. I think it's going to destroy my vitality. That's my belief, and maybe that's wrong, and people want to be hopeful and stuff, but I guess what I'm saying is that even if it does destroy my vitality, which I believe it will, and I'm officially going to be an old person, I'm going to essentially have the mentality and body of a 60-year-old man. That's what I believe. And it doesn't mean I can't get up and go for walks and talk to people and do everything a 60-year-old man can do, but it does mean I'm going to be in a diminished state. But I think even in that diminished state, I think at least something good can happen, right? A perspective change. I mean, I always believe in that, the spiritual, psychological ability to overcome anything if you put your mind to it. I've always believed that if I was, this is another one of those sentimental, melodramatic delusions of grandeur, but the idea of being tortured for your beliefs, because Machiavelli was tortured because of his friendships. And they tortured him, and he was never the same. And he went on to write The Prince. So I guess that's my model, is that I think I'm going to be tortured, and I want to come out of that torture, and I want to write The Prince. Because I think that at the end of the day, I don't take life seriously enough. Yeah, I don't take my purpose seriously enough. I only started writing a few years ago. I only started publishing a few years ago. I've been writing since I was 17 or earlier. I started writing my first book when I was 17. I never finished it. I wrote an introduction. I started writing my second book when I was 19. I've started writing a lot of books that have never been published. I wrote an unpublished book in 2016. I wrote a 200-page book in 2021. So there's a lot of books that I've written that have never been finished, have never been published, and I'm just terrified of dealing with all that writing, because a lot of it is wrong. A lot of it is I've evolved, my thoughts have changed, I've learned more things. So I'm scared. I'm scared of all my past right now. I have 100 drafts. I have bare minimum 100,000 words, maybe even 1 million words unpublished right now. And I don't have the emotional desire to do all the work necessary, the discipline to sit down every day, work on those drafts. And I hope what cancer does is I hope cancer gives me some seriousness. I hope it's a transcendent spiritual experience where maybe I do lose my vitality. But if I'm still capable of editing my drafts and publishing them, then that will be a victory. And that will be useful, and that will put us further toward the purpose, which is, I just want to say, I feel that in these millions of words, there is like one good essay. And I feel like that one good essay just needs to be written by one good kid. Because I remember being 12 years old and being online and watching video essays and reading books. And that's all I want. I just want one good kid to read one good essay, because I think that's all it takes. I think if one good kid reads one good essay, then it'll all be worth it. That's my purpose. I'm sorry if you're 50 years old and you're watching this, you are not the target audience. I'm sorry if you're not that kid. And I'm sorry for not writing that essay yet. I know it's an ideal, it's an aspiration, it's something that maybe can't exist in reality, but it's the ideal that I'm always striving for, my purpose that I have to keep fighting for. I'll apologize to the people who have reached out to me recently that I've been unempathetic toward for whatever reason. I can't do the text-based communication. I'm sorry. I cannot do text-based communication because my online existence is people call me slurs, they call me gay, they tell me they want to hurt me and they want me to suffer. And probably a lot of people will actually watch this. Like a huge proportion of my YouTube subscribers who subscribed to me back in, 2021 or something, even earlier. A huge proportion of people who are subscribed to me on YouTube hate me and are going to leave comments saying, "I'm glad you have cancer." That's just what it is. Because that's, when you interact with the dissident right, when you change your views on things over time, people hate you and they want you to suffer. And those are the types of people that I interact with. Now, that's not a majority of human beings, but in the medium of the internet, when I receive a comment, I am in a fight or flight mode. I'm dealing all day with these squeaky wheels. I'm dealing with a small percentage of people who are psychopaths who want to hurt me. They're sadists. And so when I receive a message from somebody that's like heartfelt and empathetic and they're kind of confessing something or they're revealing something, I don't have a lot of sympathy for people. Even women, I don't have a lot of sympathy for anybody. Because when I go online, and maybe this is part of my personality to begin with, but I go online and it's like I dehumanize. I get dehumanized by others. I dehumanize them. And so someone sends me stuff like that, and my reaction is like, "You're a loser. Why are you confessing your sins to me? Why are you reaching out for empathy? Like, I'm not going to give you empathy. I'm not an empathetic person. What's wrong with you?" That's been my reaction. And I wish that I could do better. I wish that I could not do that. I wish I could be more empathetic. I don't know how to. It makes me scared. It makes me feel weak. It makes me feel vulnerable. It's frightening. I don't know why. I've always been like this. I remember when my dad died, I was sitting with my stepmother and she was crying about his death. And I sort of understood like the correct thing at that time was to like put my arm around her and hug her and tell her everything's going to be okay. And it was such a struggle. And every time I'm put in situations like that, I have a really difficult time just expressing basic empathy. And so it's like, I don't give empathy to other people. Do I deserve empathy? It's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? I spend a lot of my time hanging around sociopaths, internet trolls and stuff like that. And then that makes me the way I am or reinforces the way that I am. So that's something that I've noticed. It's something that's been weighing on me that I haven't been able. And I'm saying that, and that's not an advertisement of like, "Oh, and now I'm going to be empathetic. And now I'm going to be a therapist and you can come to me with all your problems and I'm going to be like, you're a great person. Thank you so much for sharing. And I know you're going to do great." No, I'm still going to call you a loser. I'm genuinely, I know that sounds like a joke, but that's where I'm at. If you think that I've changed your life, I'm going to be like, how? Are you a billionaire? What did you do? Because I don't want to change anyone's life in a mediocre way. I don't want to improve. I don't want to have someone say, "Well, I got a promotion at work. Well, I got a girlfriend." Okay, I know I'm supposed to care about that, but I am a visionary. I'm an idealist. I'm a perfectionist. So the way in which I want to change someone's life is civilizational. I know that's a delusion of grandeur. I understand the critique. I understand that I am immature. I understand every bad thing that you can say about me because I've already heard it before. But I'm just saying that's the way I am. So please don't come to me and say, "I know you're dying of cancer," which I'm not dying of cancer, okay? But I know people are going to say that. "Oh, I know you're dying of cancer, but I just want to let you know you changed my life." And it's like, no, I didn't change your life. First of all, only you can change your life. I can only unlock potentialities, or I shouldn't even say that. I can be a stepping stone. You can step forward onto me, and then you can step beyond me. That's my purpose. But it requires you. You have to step on me. You're the one moving. It's your feet. I'm not forcing you forward. I'm not changing you. You're changing yourself. You're making the decision. So I have a great deal of contempt for people who tell me that I've changed their lives, because no, I haven't. And the only way I'm going to be satisfied with that statement is if you're a billionaire and you invite me and you and you show up with your helicopter and you say, you know, you changed my life. And I'll be like, I guess I did. I guess we finally made it. But, you know, barring that, I don't want to get DMs of people telling me, I got a job and a girlfriend because of you. And I know that's so pathological to say, and I get everyone's upset at me. And I totally understand. Like I understand I'm in the wrong and you're in the right. I get that. It's just I can't. There's something wrong with me. Okay, I'm not an empathetic person. I can't deal with that. I can't handle that. And I don't know if it's because I'm afraid, or it feels disingenuous, or it feels mediocre, or it feels like I have a larger purpose than this, or we need to have higher standards, or we can never accept. And it's like, I just don't believe that I'm helping it. Like, no, I believe who I am is I'm like trying to do something world historical, and I want to be in a history book, right? And I don't want to have it written on my gravestone like he helped somebody get a girlfriend. Like, no, it's not the purpose of it. And I understand, like, everything I've said about natalism, like, maybe there is something to helping guys get girlfriends. And I don't even know that I have helped anyone get a girlfriend, to be honest. But I want people to approach me as equals, which is a weird thing to say because I've kind of engaged in a lot of whatever you call it, narcissism or something, superiority complex. But I do want people to approach me as equal. I don't want people to come to me and say, hey, you saved my life. You did so much for me. Thank you. And I know I'm going to get those comments, so I'm just expressing my feelings about that. I mean, obviously, people are going to say whatever they're going to say. But I don't want people to say, oh, you've changed my life. You've done so much good for me. I just want people to exercise a little bit of discipline and a little bit of self-control and try to understand where I'm coming from. And I don't know if it's ever, I don't know that that's possible to achieve. But if you like me, or even if you hate me, but you find me to be significant, or you find me to be interesting, or you find me to be enjoyable, there's something about me that resonates, or there's something about me that's, I'm a part of your life or something. I don't want to hear a eulogy. I don't want to hear you talk about all the time, the good times, and oh, you're so good, and blah, blah, blah. I want you to pause, and I want you to look within yourself and to say, this guy has cancer. What does that mean for me? What is he saying? What is he trying to say to people? He's not taking this moment to farm for sympathy and be like, oh, I want everyone to write me a nice comment. No. What I'm demanding of people is that if you're really listening to me and you really care about me, take a look at your life right now. If you are younger than me, take a look at your life and take it seriously. Don't write me a nice comment. Take a look at your life and think seriously about what are you doing today, in the next hour. When this video ends, what are you doing with your life? What is your plan? What is your purpose? Do you even have one? What are you doing this week? What are you doing this month? What's your plan for the year, the next 5 years, the next 15 years of your life? Where do you want to be in 20 years? Take that seriously. Make a plan. Figure it out. If you don't know what you want to do, try something. Get on a plane, go somewhere. Get a job that you don't want. Meet people that you're afraid to meet. Take a risk. Do something. Experiment. Don't wait. Don't wait around for something to happen. Don't listen to the people say, oh, you're young, you have time. No, you don't have time. You do not have time. I did not have time. I did not have time to do the things that I wanted to do. I didn't have time to have the family that I wanted to have. I didn't have time to, have the physical health that I wanted to have the athleticism or the life experience, to have the mental capacity, the energetic capacity, the vitalism. I didn't have time. And, maybe there's miracles and I'll get my time back. But I'm just telling you right now, it's looking pretty nasty. I'm going to live a diminished life. That could be you. And it can happen in different ways. And it doesn't have to be cancer. It could be you get stuck in a long-housed relationship that destroys your emotional capacity. I know a lot of guys who are married to women who have functionally destroyed their lives. And they will never be creative again because they have zero time or energy for anything creative. It just sucked the life right out of them. There's a lot of ways that you can live a diminished life. Don't wait. It can happen in so many different ways. It doesn't have to be cancer. It doesn't have to be a bad marriage. Don't wait around. If you are young, if you are in high school, if you are in college, if you are in your 20s, don't wait. Don't wait for something to happen. Don't wait for a plan to happen. Don't wait for inspiration to strike you. Do it today. Don't leave a nice comment. Don't tell me, oh, I did, you're so great. I love that one thing you did. Remember when this happened? I don't care. I literally don't care about you. And I don't care about your comment. What I care is about what you do. I don't care about the parasocial relationship we have, which I'm sure is very important. It doesn't matter, actually. It's actually not important. What matters is what you do. It's the only thing I care about. It's what you do. If you do something great with your life, good. If you don't, worthless. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. All the nostalgia, all the good times, all the memories, none of it matters. It matters what you do. It matters your achievement. That's what heroism is. It's your deeds. It's what you do. It's not sentimentalism. It's not, oh, do you remember this was a really funny time? Remember that memory? Doesn't matter. It's gone. It's already annihilated. It's already eradicated, right? So start planning. Start planning now. Start following through right now. Start making changes right now. Don't wait. This is what I'm telling you. And obviously, if you're 60 years old watching this, turn it off. You're wasting your time. But if you're young, make something happen. Seriously. Whatever you have to do. Meet people. Try it out. Do your best. And that's what I would like to talk to people about. I don't want to talk about the ways in which I've quote unquote helped you in the past. The past doesn't matter. We're in the present now. We're going forward. And I can't stand, and again, I'm apologizing because I know that the way I'm communicating with people is not helpful. And I know it makes them upset and it makes them hate me and it makes them think that I don't care about them and that I want the worst for them and that I'm disrespectful and I'm rude. And I get all of that and I acknowledge it and I admit it. I am all of those terrible things, but I'm just being totally real with you guys. That's the situation. I do have to get going here, so I'm going to end the video. I don't know if that was a good way to end the video. I don't know if that was a loving way to end the video. It's my attempt. It's my cruel, authoritarian attempt to express the way that I experience love, the way that I think of love. It's a tough love. It's the love that I've received. I don't know if it's the right love or the good love, but it's like that's my love. That's my love for you guys. And I guess I'm not gonna die. So you'll be saying this isn't like this is my last video. No, this is not my last video. There'll be more videos. You're going to see me bald. You're going to see me in the hospital. It's going to be a tough year. I'll survive. It's going to be a mediocre year. That's the problem, is I'm not going to write a lot of good stuff, and I'm not going to be doing anything cool, and I'm not going to be traveling, and I'm not going to be meeting people, and it's going to suck. So that's the next year of my life. So that's the message. Go do something, plan something, take a risk, make it happen. Okay, bye-bye.